Bray Wyatt's first feud since returning to WWE was teased last night on SmackDown. The Bloodline seemingly have their War Games opponents revealed. The World Cup on SmackDown kicks off. The Usos are set to become the longest reigning WWE Tag Team Champions in company history after defeating the New Day. The Viking Raiders return with Sarah Logan, but did she rip off an indie-star look and gimmick? Shotzi will challenge for the SmackDown Women's Championship at Survivor Series. Karl Anderson gives an update on when he's going to defend his never Openweight Championship in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Triple H has changed his mind on the Judgement Day. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE. Of course, last night was SmackDown on Fox, Friday Night SmackDown, which means some big stories coming out of last night's broadcast. Let's start off talking about Bray Wyatt, because finally Bray Wyatt gets physical with a possible opponent on the horizon. On last night's edition of SmackDown was the first feud for Bray Wyatt since returning to the WWE, revealed in a backstage segment. In a backstage segment involving someone else entirely, Bray Wyatt crashed an interview. In a backstage segment, LA Knight was being interviewed when the screen behind him flashed some of the spooky images associated with the former Universal Champion. When he noticed, he boldly proclaimed that they needed to get this trash off the screen. This was his time. Bold move was received with some bold consequences, as when LA Knight turned around, he came face to face with Bray Wyatt himself. In the first backstage interaction between Bray Wyatt and another WWE superstar since his return to SmackDown, he did not appear to make a friend. Despite introducing himself rather politely, things devolved a bit from there, as can be seen during the broadcast. LA Knight was not happy. He said that Bray Wyatt should go back and play with his puppets and put them somewhere that makes him feel good. Bray Wyatt responded by headbutting LA Knight and then seemingly vanishing, because when LA Knight got back up to his feet, LA Knight said, "Where is he?" Bray Wyatt had vanished into thin air. So seemingly it looks like Bray Wyatt's first feud is going to be against none other than LA Knight, the former $1 million champion on Friday Night SmackDown. This was quite surprising, actually. I don't really know what I expected. This is the thing with Bray Wyatt at this point. I don't know really what I expect from him anymore. I didn't know if we were just going to get more of these teases, more of this Uncle Howdy stuff, more of just all of this kind of craziness, really. But the way they did it was actually really fun. As I mentioned, LA Knight was being interviewed. The images were going on in the background, and the interviewer was kind of like, "What's going on that screen right there?" LA Knight said, "What are you talking about?" He turned around, he saw it, he said, "Get the trash off the screen," and then Bray Wyatt appeared. They had the confrontation, and then as LA Knight's chatting to him and kind of berating him, and Wyatt's getting angrier and angrier, you can see Uncle Howdy once again behind LA Knight on this screen, kind of again being the proverbial devil on the shoulder for Bray Wyatt, I guess, encouraging him to embrace that inner demon, embrace, I guess, maybe the return of the Fiend. I don't know. But I don't think when people thought, who is Bray Wyatt's first feud going to be, I don't think many people thought LA Knight. But in reality, who did we really think it's going to be? Bray Wyatt isn't going after Roman Reigns. He's not going after the Universal Championship. That's not the case here. That isn't what is happening. So because of that, I guess it kind of does make a bit of sense that it would be someone like LA Knight. And that promo segment alone was a lot of fun. So the promos we're going to see, I think, are going to be a lot of fun here. You've got the spooky, supernatural, offbeat stuff of Bray Wyatt. Then you've got this brash, loud, cocky, arrogant LA Knight who is almost representing those people that don't like the Bray Wyatt stuff, where he's sort of saying, "What are you doing? What is this? You know, play with those puppets. Stick them where the sun don't shine. Leave." So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. The match itself, you know, that's the part of the course when it comes to Bray Wyatt. The matches aren't really the story here. The story is the promos. The story is the character. It's a different perspective on wrestling. But I really enjoyed it. So I'm really interested to see where this one goes moving forward. Of course, Survivor Series War Game is on the horizon. And seemingly, we now know who the Bloodline are going to be facing off against at Survivor Series. The Bloodline's opponents for their War Games match at Survivor Series were seemingly revealed at the end of SmackDown on November 11 last night. A Roman Reigns celebration segment was cut short via an interruption from the Brawling Brutes, complete with a returning Sheamus. The numbers, though, were still 4-on-3 in the Bloodline's favour until Drew McIntyre, the Scottish Warrior, came out to even the odds on the Brawling Brutes side. There was no Sami Zayn involved. in the Bloodline celebration, so it was actually 4-on-4, which also means there'll be a spot open on the Brutes teams too, since War Games will be 5-on-5. The fifth man wasn't revealed, but there's certainly a couple of options that it could be, and we'll talk about that in a second. But seemingly, what we're going to get at Survivor Series is the Bloodline, consisting of Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, Solo Sikoa, and seemingly Sami Zayn, going up against Sheamus, Butch, Rich Holland, Drew McIntyre, and that fifth person, I mean, I guess maybe that fifth person could be a Kevin Owens, maybe. I think that might be the most likely situation, because we've had a couple of brief interactions between Owens and Zayn over the last couple of months, sort of saying, you know, what are you doing? Why are you aligning yourself with them? I think that might be the direction that they go in, seemingly. And realistically, as I said before, it kind of always had to be the Brawling Brutes. They did the angle a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown where Sheamus was injured. In reality, it was to write him off television to go and get married. But what other faction realistically could it have been on SmackDown? Yes, you could have, maybe a pitch could have been made for a Roman Reigns versus, you know, Gunther, sort of Imperium versus Bloodline situation, but they're two heel factions. And I do think they will pivot to that at some point. I think we are going to get Roman Reigns versus Gunther at some point in the future. I really do. But it's a case of when's the right time to really pull that trigger? Not now. We know the SmackDown World Cup's going to culminate with the Intercontinental Championship match against Gunther, and I think they want to keep Gunther and Reigns separate because they want to protect Gunther. So it kind of makes sense that it has to be the Brawling Brutes, but certainly it's interesting. And they had to do it quick. Survivor Series is in 2 weeks' time. They've got to do something quickly, and they've got to make sure that it is done quickly. So it seemingly is going to be the Bloodline, consisting, as I mentioned, of Reigns, of the Usos, of Solo Sikoa, of Sami Zayn, against the Brawling Brutes, including Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, and that fifth person, who logically a lot of people are assuming to be Kevin Owens, but we'll have to wait and see. Speaking of the World Cup, we've got some people advancing to the semi-final round. On last night's edition of SmackDown, the big tournament kicked off as the first two semi-finalists were revealed. After last week's SmackDown saw the announcement of the SmackDown World Cup on Fox, the tournament has now indeed kicked off just days before the real World Cup kicks off as well in Qatar. The first match of the tournament occurred last night on SmackDown, putting Shinsuke Nakamura against Santos Escobar, with Legado del Fantasma at ringside for the match. The two captivating stars had great in-ring chemistry. It was a really fun match, actually. The match hosted both exciting action in the ring, as well as both Wade Barrett and Michael Cole going the extra mile to introduce Escobar to fans who may be unfamiliar with his work in NXT. In the end, it was the recently graduated main roster star who got the victory. Therefore, Escobar, representing Mexico, captured the victory to advance to the semi-final rounds of the SmackDown World Cup on Fox. The tournament is set to continue with Escobar's future semi-final opponents to be determined. But as I mentioned, it wasn't the only match of the night that was included in this tournament. In the second bout of the night, the SmackDown World Cup on Fox saw the return of a former WWE champion, Jinder Mahal, returned on SmackDown to compete against Braun Strowman in the first round matchup. After a hard-fought battle between the two big men, it was eventually the monster of all monsters who picked up the win and advanced to the semi-final. So I don't think Strowman's going to be facing off against Santos Escobar. They're on opposite sides of the bracket, I believe. But I do like the way that they're doing this. Certainly, I like the idea, as I mentioned, of having all of these global stars representing their countries. So you do have the likes of, as I mentioned, you've got Jinder Mahal's representing India, and Sami Zayn's representing Canada, and Butch is representing the UK. You've got obviously Strowman representing the United States. Same with, I think Ricochet and Mustafa Ali are in there. But you've also got Shinsuke Nakamura, who's representing Japan. So it's fun. And also as well, it's good because it's, you know, it plays off it's smart from a search engine optimization point of view. People are going to be typing in World Cup, so when they type in World Cup, they might see this SmackDown stuff. You know, it makes sense from that perspective. And I like the idea, as I mentioned, of a tournament to get an opportunity at the Intercontinental Champion, make the Intercontinental Championship mean something. As far as who wins, I mean, Gunther's a heel, so logically you would suggest a babyface is probably winning this one. I mean, chances are you're looking at probably Braun Strowman. In all honesty, most likely, Braun Strowman's going to probably win that trophy. He's going to probably win that World Cup. And then we're going to get Strowman versus Gunther in a really interesting match, possibly at Survivor Series. So that's quite interesting to see. But again, anything can and will happen in the tournament. So we'll have to wait and see when it comes to that. The Usos seemingly are going to become have the record rather, for the WWE Tag Team Championship longest reign in company history, because they etched their names in history on Friday night, securing the record as the longest reigning WWE Tag Team Champions in history. Although although Jimmy and Jey Uso are technically still 2 days shy of the New Day's record-setting reign of 483 days, they will officially clinch the record on Monday, November 14. In a fitting passing of the torch moment, the Usos defeated the New Day on SmackDown to surpass the record set by Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods and Big E, as per the Freebird rules, in December of 2016. The back-and-forth match, widely praised by fans on social media, ended when the Usos caught Kingston in mid-air with the 1D. Solo Sikoa and the rest of the Bloodline were noticeably absent from ringside. After the match, however, Jimmy and Jey were embraced by the Bloodline in the backstage area, with Roman Reigns telling his cousins they now know what it feels like to be the greatest of all time. Later in the night, the Bloodline cut a promo in the ring to celebrate the Usos' historic achievement. Of course, they were interrupted by the Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre, etc., etc. We know about that. The Usos, though, began their current reign of 481 days and counting with a victory over the Mysterios for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships in July of last year, July 18, 2021 to be specific. They would subsequently beat RK Bro for the Raw Tag Team Championships in May of this year, unifying the two championships in a winner-takes-all match. And it was fantastic. Of course, the Usos and the New Day have unbelievable chemistry. They've had fantastic matches over the years, so this is no surprise that they would have a fantastic match. They opened the show, they kicked it off red hot, went for about half hour, and they had a fantastic match. At no point did I really think the New Day were actually going to win. As I mentioned, the crowd, they had false finishes, and I think the crowd bought into it. And my only thing that I'm just very aware of, and I don't think they'll do it because it would be very Vince McMahon to do it, and this would have been a Vince McMahon regime thing to do, but the way they played it up is, oh, they've done it. They're definitely going to be the longest reigning tag team champions of all time, because there's no scheduled tag team title match between now and Monday. And of course, as I mentioned, on Monday, they do become the longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history. But how technical, it depends how technical they want to get with it, because of course it's Monday Night Raw on Monday, and I would think logically they'll probably be on the show. And if they're on the show, I have a feeling we're going to get a tag team match, and possibly for the titles, and there could be something of, actually, if they lose it today, or by this time, did they actually tie the record? It was actually at this time that the New Day, lost the tag team championships, therefore, they could actually, the reign could be broken, or something like that. I think they could get very technical with it, and if that is the case, you could have fun with it. My point being, you could have fun with it. You could say, the Usos are defending the tag team championships on Raw, and it's not even they have to win the match. They just have to make sure they are the champions by this time to break the record. That is quite convoluted. I don't know if they're going to go with it like that, but who knows? I think we might have a tag team match on Raw, and I'd be really surprised if they lost it. Again, I think we're going towards WrestleMania, and I think we're going towards the Usos versus Logan Paul and Jake Paul for the tag team championships. I don't know if the people to end the record-breaking tag team championship reign, the longest reigning tag team championship reign in WWE history, is going to be Jake and Logan Paul. Could you imagine? But anything's possible, certainly. So keep an eye out for Raw, because again, I think we might see something on Monday. The Viking Raiders, and I guess more importantly, Sarah Logan, are back, and this has generated so much conversation on social media. It really has. Now, before Zelina Vega and B-Fab could even get their match truly going, it was interrupted by a familiar, spooky voice. With the Titantron taken over with flames, a woman appeared saying Valhalla is here before a trio of returning stars attacked. While the Viking Raiders, Eric and Ivar, laid waste to Legado del Fantasma and Hit Row at ringside to support their counterparts, chaos erupted. Eventually, Michael Cole revealed that it was the returning Sarah Logan who was with the Viking Raiders. Sarah Logan with a vicious Ragnarok and headbutt on B-Fab to close the segment, with the returning trio standing tall. Valhalla is indeed here. Now, this has generated, as I mentioned, a ton of controversy, it must be said. It really has, because as you can see on the screen, there's a change in the look to Sarah Logan there, and it's a darker look, and it's a different look, and some people would say, oh, that's really cool, she's got a different look going on. Well, unfortunately, as awesome as the Viking Raiders are, and the shift towards a more serious and trending version of the group is a welcome one, not all responses, shall we say, have been entirely positive. Logan's new look has reminded fans an awful lot of Max the Impaler from the indie scene and AEW. Fans are all over social media claiming that Logan's look is a blatant rip-off of the former OVW champion's gimmick. To make matters worse, the look appears to be a half-hearted attempt to kind of copy the performer. There very much feels like there could at the very least be inspiration. We're going to show it in a second. It feels like Logan and WWE maybe didn't put all of their effort into it. And to be fair, in my opinion, there are a lot of similarities. There are. At the same time, though, on the other side of the fence, other fans are arguing that this is just a very common Viking look and that wrestlers and fans are being too sensitive about their gimmicks and having their ideas stolen and everything's fair game. We've got a comparison here, and you can make your own mind up. You can let me know. I want you to let me know in the comment section below. Let me know. Do you think that this is a ripoff? Do you think that there is the very least inspiration? Or is this just a common Viking look? Here's the comparison between Sarah Logan and Max the Impaler. And it must be said, there are very, very, very clear similarities. I'll be totally honest and I'll hold my hands up. I wasn't totally familiar with Max the Impaler's work. I think I've maybe seen a couple of matches. So I didn't totally see it straight away. And then once I saw the pictures on social media, I went, you know what? Like that's... There are very clear comparisons. And you might say, oh, it's just one picture that looks similar. Go and Google Max the Impaler and you'll see that there's a look there that certainly feels like there might at the very least be inspiration. But at the same time, I can understand people say, well, they know this is just sort of classic sort of Viking, Valhalla sort of stuff. Max the Impaler took her inspiration from that. So Sarah Logan's done the same thing. It's up to you to make that assertion, I suppose. But you can let me know in the comment section. Is it a ripoff? Is it gimmick infringement? What say you? Shotzi is going to be challenging for the SmackDown Women's Championship at Survivor Series War Games. This was certainly an interesting one. It was determined last night on SmackDown. There was a big 6-woman match to determine Ronda Rousey's next challenger for the title. With no disqualifications in the match, anything was available for Shotzi, Raquel Rodriguez, Lacey Evans, Liv Morgan, Xia Li, and Sonya Deville. After a match featuring several big spots, it was Shotzi that came out on top and captured the victory, and also a title shot against Ronda Rousey at Survivor Series. There was a botch in this match, which was not ideal, it must be said, featuring Liv Morgan trying to crossbody through it. It didn't. I Google it. It was not great. After the match, Shotzi was congratulated backstage by Emma, but got a less than warm reception from Shayna Baszler. Baszler said that Ronda was going to cause Shotzi more pain and anguish than she's ever felt in her life, so she didn't really win anything. While Shotzi had some passionate retorts about taking on Ronda Rousey, she was prompted to turn around and saw the champ herself. Upon the shock, she didn't back down. However, she was promptly choked out by Baszler as the segment ended with the duo taunting Shotzi. So, of course, Ronda Rousey is clearly a heel at this point. And you know what? I am really glad that we've now got this Baszler versus Ronda Rousey tag team. I've been saying for ages they should be a tag team. I've been saying they should be the tag team champions. That is a legitimate badass tag team. That's the ones that they should be going after the tag team championships for me. I think that they can really do something special there. As far as the match for Survivor Series, I'm going to be totally honest, it does not do anything for me. I do not think we're going to see a classic. Hopefully I'm proved wrong. But this doesn't feel like a match to me that is worthy of a... I mean, Survivor Series was traditionally one of the big four, wasn't it? The big four pay-per-views, with Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. They were the big four, the original four, certainly. And I don't know if this feels like it's worthy of that. Time will tell. Hopefully they can prove me wrong. The Judgment Day, talk about a group that's turned things around, and seemingly they've also turned things around in the eyes of Triple H as well. Paul Levesque has reportedly changed his mind about pushing a particular WWE act since he took over the creative of the company. In an interview with Give Me Sport, WrestleVotes discussed Levesque's current perception of the Judgment Day group, now made up of Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, and Dominic Mysterio, and how it's changed since he was first named WWE's Chief Content Officer. WrestleVotes said, I know back in late July or early August, whenever this whole shift happened, from what I was told, Hunter, easy for me to say, wasn't really cool with the Judgment Day. Not personally, but he just didn't like the idea. But since he's grown behind it, and I think they're going to be around for longer than anticipated, it must be said, I think he and a lot of people have done a fantastic job, really, honestly. I think they've done a real fantastic job in turning around the Judgment Day, really. I think that Again, it was a group that felt directionless. The Edge turn was strange, and Balor turning on it. It just didn't work. But now they've dropped most of the supernatural stuff, and they're just a group of people, that kind of, that hate people. And I think sometimes you can overcomplicate pro wrestling and with supernatural stuff, and they didn't need to do that, certainly. So I think that Triple H has done a great job with that. Finally, Karl Anderson that is still, at this time of recording anyway, the New Japan Never Openweight champion, and he was scheduled to defend his title Battle Autumn. He was meant to in Osaka. Never happened, of course, because he was in Saudi Arabia for Crown Jewel. Now he's given an update on the After the Bell podcast about his situation and when he plans to defend his championship in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Anderson said, "I'm going to go back to New Japan on my time. New Japan Pro Wrestling usually strips their champions when they can't make a show, and they threw a leniency in there because they announced a match for me when we hadn't totally agreed on what we were going to do. The dates are coming up." Anderson assured fans he will make a return to New Japan to defend the championship, but did not reveal any specific date or timetable of that occurring. "I've gotten some slanderous tweets," Anderson joked. "I've messaged Rocky Romero, who's a great friend of ours and is one of the office brothers in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I said I can't wait to announce this date because these people are really, really hating me right now." Anderson and Gallows then threatened in jest they planned on keeping the title hostage in America forever. It would seem that Anderson will defend the IWGP Never Openweight Championship early next year at Wrestle Kingdom in Tokyo, at the Tokyo Dome, Wrestle Kingdom 17, that is. The event is scheduled to take place on January 4th. 2023. It will only consist of one night of wrestling as opposed to the 2-night format that they've done in recent years, or 3 nights as they did earlier this year. So Anderson's going to defend it and drop the championship then, is basically what they're saying. So there you go, guys. That's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.